Beautiful afternoon to you. Many thanks for joining me on Flipside. I'm yours sincerely, Oluije Oyikokai. Today on Flipside, we were looking at population, yes, World Population Day, the impact it has on our society. And to do justice to that for us, we have the person of Destiny Iwobu. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
All right, so before we go to Destiny Iwobu right now, we would like to let you know that World Population Day is an annual event observed every year, which seeks to raise awareness of global population issues. Now, the event was established by the Governing Council of the United Nations Development Program in 1989. Now, it was inspired by the public interests in 5 billion days on July 1987. Now, the approximate date on which the world population reached 5 billion people. Now, World Population Day aims to increase people awareness on various populations issues, such as the importance of family planning. Yes, I have to say that again. The importance of family planning, gender equality, poverty, and maternal health and human rights. Now, the one that so many persons, they don't actually want to fall into is family planning. You hear a woman tell you that my husband said children have gotten from God Almighty, so we should just keep, bringing them into life and God will provide. That's what God will provide. You find so many persons out there living life the way they ought not to. But quickly now, first of Destiny, to some persons, they'll feel like, okay, they don't really know the meaning of population. So please help us with the meaning of population.
Basically, population simply means the total number of men, women, and children living in society.
In a given society.
In a given society. So if it's simply basic counts of the number of people within a country is the basic population. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so why do you feel the World Health Organization has decided to say, hey, let's raise awareness that certainly we have population growth every day, every month, every year, as far as the world and the society is concerned?
Yeah, there's a problem of resources. The world, how much can the world support? And the rate at which population is growing is geometric. 200 years ago, population of this world was 1 billion people. 100 years ago, it was 2 billion. 100 years later, it is now 7.9 billion. What that means is that every 30, 40 years, the population of the world doubles. So we suspect that it will double to something around 12, 13 billion in the next 50, 60 years. Now the question is, are there resources to support these people? We're not talking about animals, we're talking about human beings. Access to education, access to health, access to quality lifestyle. Yeah. Is the world able to support the growth of human beings around, in this planet? Yeah. Because if you see the rate at which the population is growing, it means that it's a time bomb waiting to happen. Just imagine, people need space to live. People need high quality air. People need a lot of things to enjoy life. And so when the population is too much, then that puts a strain on the resources that are available in the world. And according to what we know, the resources in this world are finite. What that means is that they are not growing like the population. So in a finite population space, where the resources are finite and population is growing, the common sense says that we should try and control one of them. We cannot increase the size of the earth, for instance. We cannot increase the amount of water available on the planet, for instance. We cannot increase the amount of fossil fuels available in the planet, for instance. We cannot increase the number of resources that we have. But we, as a population, are growing. So we can regulate that. We can control the rate at which population expands. I think that's the purpose of the day, to draw awareness to the fact that population explosion may become a problem. Yeah. And so we need to work to try to save it.
Okay, now, what causes the increase in population?
Yeah, basically, the biggest source of increase in the world population is increase in quality of life. The world is getting richer. and the world is getting access to better quality health care. Yeah. The world is getting, most countries are getting very developed, and people are having access to resources to take care of their children. So that's number one. Number two, wars. You know, the war, most people died before they got to 40, about 6,000 years ago, because in a lifetime you are likely going to experience war at some point. But because of the United Nations and the World Organization, people can actually spend a whole length of life without experiencing warfare. Yeah. And so there's now global security compared to what we used to have. And then that allows people to have time to have children and see them grow into adulthood. Number three is the concept of fighting disease. About 600-700 years ago, malaria was a big killer, and it killed millions of people, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. The world has been able to conquer that and bring it to a barest minimum. What about polio? Polio was a big problem in developed countries. They've been able to vaccinate towards that. What about many diseases that have come and gone? I think advances in medicine has made it easy for people to extend their lives. I mean, by simply not getting accidents. And then most of these factors gives preconditions for people to have more children. And then the more children you have, the more children they will have. And so, like Bill Gates said, this is the best time to be alive. And so people can afford to have children. In a war situation or in a poverty situation, in extreme hunger, people do not think about having children. And so the world population goes down. So the factors that support population growth are already there. I think the world is saying that there's no reason to believe that population will not expand because the world has been better organized, better access to healthcare and things like that. But there's a problem. If we continue that way, then the population will become problematic, global population. And do we have the resources? Do we have the education? Do we have, are people able to fund a proper education for their children? And so that we can guarantee a safe tomorrow. Yes, that's the idea. Okay.
Now, you talked about the fact that we have more people in the society.
Yes.
Now, do we find we having more persons coming up yearly, every day, like we're sitting now? Someone has, in fact, I said someone, families have, you know, brought in 1, 2, 3 life as far as planet Earth is concerned.
Yes.
Now, we know of a country, China, if I'm not mistaken, and there was a time that the government actually, you know, was able to curtail the amount of children you can actually give birth to as far as a family is concerned.
Yes.
Now, do you feel that the sporadic births, you know, giving of births every year, every month, every day contributes to increase in population?
Yeah, it does so. China did the 50-year plan, one-child policy.
And did it work?
It worked. China, even up to now, is still the most populated country in the world with about 1.8 billion people. Now, they did that policy 50 years ago because they saw their population was expanding, and they didn't have the resources to support that population. And when you see a problem coming, it's always best to curtail it. And then they did that. Instead of focusing on having more children, they invested heavily in education, in manufacturing, in things that will support the already population that they have. And then over the 50-year plan, as I speak to you, China has gotten out of poverty because the plan worked. So the same thing applies. Okay, let's say Nigeria, for instance. We have seen that our population is about 217 million at the moment, and then it's growing at about 3 to 4% per annum. By simple statistics, by 2050, Nigeria will become 400 million people. Okay? Now, if with 217 million people, we don't have all the facilities that we need. I'll give you some, number of universities in this country is just about 263 universities. Number of secondary schools is not up to 150,000 secondary schools. Primary school is not enough. Primary healthcare facilities is not enough. Roads are not enough. Bridges are not enough. Power is epileptic. We cannot support 217 million. So what happens when you become 450 million? Okay? That means we need to triple or quadruple our current facilities. Now there's a question. Do we have the resources to build 2,000 universities in the next 30 years? Do we have the resources? Do we have the resources to provide hospitals? Are we training enough doctors to take care of people? You know, these are the questions we look at. So while population may be a blessing for one country, it may be a curse for another country, depending on the economic structure of that country to support its population. I'll give you an example. Canada needs more people right now because although it's one of the richest countries in the world, the population of Canada does not support its production because they have less population compared to what they need.
Okay.
And we were told that starting from on the 6th of this month, Canada is welcoming 1 million immigrants to their country. That's because the country is a very high-tech country. They need a population of labor force to support their production needs. They are not having more children like they used to have anymore. In fact, their population is declining. Okay. Now, some other countries are exploding and they are poor.
Like UK.
Like, are you getting the point now? So, what we are looking at in population dynamics is how is the country supporting its population?
Okay.
You don't need rocket science to know that. You're going to ask the current population that you have. Do they have access to healthcare? Do they have access to quality education? Do they have access to power? Do they have access to those facilities that that supports life? Now, if they don't already have access, common sense says that you should plan, you know. And they begin to ask questions: what explains the expansion in the population? There must be some explanation. One, is it cultural? In some cultures, having children is a blessing. I mean, some of our names are more FA.
True.
You know,
the amount of children you have means you
you have wealth. You know,
in the family.
So that culture that counts number of children as wealth, but doesn't look at the quality of life that they live. It may be fueling growth of population. There's another concept, especially for Christians, who say the Bible says we should go to the world and multiply. Okay, so if you're from that Christocentric background, you tend to look at the children as gifts from God. You know, they are treasures. They are treasures from God, and so the more children you have, the more signs that God is blessing you.
Okay.
But then, for every blessing, for every gift, there is a responsibility attached.
True.
If I give you a car as a gift and I see the car 6 months later, the car is badly damaged, you don't clean it. It is true, it is a gift, but I may not be interested to give you another gift because you don't handle it properly. So quite naturally, yes, children are gifts, but they are better gifts when you are able to cater for them and give them a quality life. So we should not start from the gifting phase. We must look at the taking care of the gift to make it really a gift. So these are cultural attitudes. Another factor may be education. Research shows that children, ladies who are not educated, tend to start having children on time. At an early age. And so the so-called fecundity, the amount of time, the fertility period of a woman, and fertility rate, it decreases as you grow older. So research shows that people who started having children early, maybe in their early 20s, by 30, they are more likely to have 10, 15 children because they have a long fertility period to have more children. But people who went to school, who are educated, they tend to graduate at around 22, get married, and possibly start having children around 26 or 27. And because they are more mentally developed, they tend to understand that having children is a matter of responsibility. And then they are likely going to have less children. And because they are educated, they are likely going to raise more intelligent children. Because spacing method comes in. So these are factors. So that is why there's a connection between education, public awareness, cultural factors in determining whether population will expand or not. Okay, and so sometimes if the culture of the people supports raising children, having more children, the government may have to come with legislation by force, like what China did, and say you have to have not more than 3 children. And there's a way to do it. If you have more than 3 children, the government can penalize you. You may not get access to some benefits that you have access to because it means you're a rich person. You're a rich person, so you can afford most of your basics. So one thing is certain: population is a blessing anywhere in the world. But whether it will be a blessing for a particular country depends on, one, the viability of that population. The viability. By viability, I mean the potential of that population to transform society in terms of wealth, security, and other factors. And these factors are directly related to the quality of the population, not the quantity. I'll give examples of countries that have less population, like Switzerland. Small population, but it's one of the richest countries in the world. There's another country, Canada, not more than 50 million people. One of the richest countries in the world. United Kingdom, not up to 100 million people. One of the richest countries in the world. Germany, one of the richest countries in the world. They have population, but they are not more respected for their population, they're more respected for the quality of their population. So if you have 100 people in a room from one family, and then they told you out of the 100 people, 13 are doctors, 26 are pilots, the other 50 are trained nurses, engineers. What the family can do is 10 times more than a family of the same 100. And then you say, what are 3 people doing? What are 15 people doing? You say the 15 of them are doing basic trading in the market. The other ones are doing, they are Igbo smokers, playing armed robbers and things like that. It's not the quantity that matters, it's the quality. And so the purpose of this day is to draw awareness to the global community that while population was seen as an asset one time, it was an asset because you needed more people to fight wars. You needed more people to farm. It was an agrarian society. You know, but today we don't need more people to achieve a lot of things. We have technology.
The equipments are there.
The equipments are there. In fact, equipments can do heavy lifting for us. So we don't really need too many people to achieve a lot of things nowadays. And so governments must find a way to curtail their population growth rate. It's especially important for a country like Nigeria. Of the 6 countries that they predict will become the biggest population creators in the next 30 years, Nigeria is one of them. It is said that 60% of the world's population in the next 50 years will be located around Africa, because Africans are still growing at a very fast rate. Japan, for instance, is declining. They have more old people than young people. Most families in Japan don't have children, and they are quite comfortable with that. But Africa will still have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. So they believe that most of this population, global population growth, will come to Africa. Incidentally, Africa is also the poorest continent in the world. So what's the connection? A continent with 1.6 billion people. Poverty rate in Africa is 86% in the entire Africa. So is there a connection between the population and poverty? Those are the kind of questions we're asking. 2, what explains the poverty of Africa? And then we begin to find a way to solve the problem. Because if Africa has poor people, as I speak to you, 845 million people in Africa are poor, cannot feed. They cannot feed. 800 million people cannot feed in Africa. That means there's a problem. It's not just a problem to Africa, it's a problem to the entire world, because poverty anywhere is a threat everywhere. And so this whole message of population explosion is mainly directed at Africa. Nigeria is 20% of Africa in population. When we talk about Africa, we are talking 1/5 of that Africa is our country. So most of these population problems that they fear will happen is going to start from here. And so our government should be looking at the future. Okay? We are not going to do anything to stop population except we put a policy in place. We use legislation. We also bring education, family planning methods. Okay? We need to train our young ladies on the proper use of sex and the proper use of motherhood. Because most girls get pregnant without knowing what it means to be a mother. And then they just have children. It's like children giving birth to children. So that's not what we want. What we want is responsible parenthood. And that requires education, continuous learning,
proper home bringing,
proper home training, so that we raise viable citizens who are able to contribute to society without becoming social deviants or becoming a problem to the society itself. I think that is the purpose of the World Population Day. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for expatiating all of this to us and letting us know where and how we can actually, impact as far as we as individuals, because we know there are some families out there. Fine, they have like maybe twins, twice, and they are still wanting to have another, especially when you have a family of, so let's say girls or boys, and you're wanting to say, oh, okay, I must have that boy child, or I must have the girl child. Now, whatever you have, I tell you, it's a blessing to you. You don't need to populate the earth before you get yourself a female child or a male child. Now, we still have issues. Like myself and someone was actually discussing, and they said developing countries are the most populated countries in the world. Now, we want to know the reason why. Because
they are jobless, predominantly.
Well,
for them to be called developing, it means they have not developed, they are poor societies. And why are they poor? The productivity of those societies is very low. Productivity. When I say productivity, I mean the amount of work a person can do. So in a place where we have unemployment and no productivity, what gives people the greatest joy is having children. Also check it in Nigeria. Notice rich families and poor families. You notice that rich people tend to have less children.
Less children.
Compared to, you know why? There are many things that give human beings joy. For instance, I could fly to any country for a holiday if I can afford it.
Yeah.
I could go to the finest restaurant, I can lodge in a hotel and have 5-star life for a month.
True.
If you can afford it. And so there are many things that make you happy. You can afford many luxuries that make you happy. But when you cannot afford those things, the joy of seeing children is your greatest luxury, your greatest enjoyment.
What about if you cannot fend for the children? How can it be your greatest luxury?
Yeah, some people enjoy just having a lot of children around.
And you can't even cater for their needs.
People don't see the word like that. Human beings are basically Irish, selfish. So why do you think a man will have 10 children and be praying, doing kalo with their life?
And tell them, go fend for yourself.
If this one does not make it, this one will make it.
True.
The way we have children in this part of the world, we gamble with the lives of our children. So let me have 25 children. Out of these 25,
one must certainly come back.
One must come back. If you have more girls, bride prices will increase. We tend to do a kind of business with people's lives. But if you know that you are going to raise these children, you're going to take all of them to school, and you are going to make effort to stand each of them so that they can stand on their own, you will be responsible with having children. Like I said, any gift has to be handled with responsibility. Okay? Fatherhood is not being a progenitor or being a sperm donor. Fatherhood is about raising children, dignified children, in a way that they can be responsible adults. Okay? In a way that they can be responsible adults. Okay? So that's, if that is what it means, it therefore means that if you are having children, the decision to have children is a long-term decision. You have to plan it. Okay? I was talking to my younger brother the other day, and he called me and he said, I didn't know school fees was this expensive. And I said, what do you mean? He said he was shocked. This is an adult. He went to pay school fees for a baby, a little boy, just to start the boy in a basic school. They said 150,000.
Okay.
Because he wanted to give the child a great education, good start.
Good start.
Now he was shocked that is what it costs to register a little kid in a school.
Okay.
Now, if you are using your first child to learn what it costs to do that, you'll be responsible with the second one. With the second one.
Sure.
But if your plan is to have children and take them anywhere, let them grow by accident, then you can have many children now. And then as they are growing up, some eat with their uncles, some travel to one place, some depend on they become a problem to other people. So it depends. I can say responsibility. We have to be responsible with our children. It's not about having them and praying, say hallelujah. We have to be responsible by raising them, and it's expensive to raise children, and that requires us to be modest with our children, amount of children we have.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's go for a quick short break. We'll be right back. Remember, we're talking about world population. Don't go nowhere. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We're still here on FLIPSIDE with yours sincerely, Oluije Oyukokai, and we're talking about World Population Day. Now, before the break, we're actually talking about bringing to the world, to life, children you can actually cater for. Why some other persons, they just be like, oh yes, the Bible says go into the world and multiply. Now, I remember back then when I was growing up, my younger ones, they made use of my textbooks. Now, for parents of, this generation, they can actually tell that what they actually experienced back then, giving their books to their younger ones to make use of, and the teacher does not say, hey, where's your own, and all of that, as far as it's the same textbook you're making use of. So right now, why has that trend changed in as far as parenting and education?
Yeah, for two reasons. Knowledge is also dynamic. And so the books you used contain certain things written according to your time.
Okay.
But the world is fast changing. You know, just about 10 years ago, there was nothing like Android phones, for instance. And so some concepts did not exist. And one thing about knowledge is that it has to be transferred in a way that it is changing. People can adapt to it. Okay, I read Ali and Simbi in my primary school. But we don't even see people called Ali. We don't even see people called Ali anymore.
Ali goes to school.
Ali goes to school. Chike and the River, things like that.
Yeah.
So, but the world has changed. Even the names we call our children, they are also changing. And so the examples need to be updated. The characters need to be updated. The storylines, the city lines need to be updated. So, because we have to adapt the learning to the modernization, to what the students are familiar with. Okay, so that's one reason. The second reason is that everybody wants to make money nowadays. So most of these schools, they want to make sure they sell these books because it's part of running their cost of the school. So that's the economics of it. You know, if everybody keeps using their elder brother's book,
who is going to use
then
the new
publishers of today will not.
And how are you going to? How is the market going to grow?
The market will not grow now. It's supply and demand. Supply and demand. That's what grows an economy. So all of us cannot be wearing our younger brother's clothes, younger brother's books, and things like that. So for those two major reasons, we must keep buying these things for these young people. You know?
Okay. So looking at the economy, like you talked about, how has population helped the economy as far as all round, as far as the situation that has to do with growth? How has population helped the economy?
For Nigeria, it has not helped.
Okay, for Nigeria.
It has not helped the economy because we have not seen a reason why we need population growth for now.
Okay.
But it has helped us in potential. When I say
manpower.
Yeah, in potential, not manpower.
Okay, potential.
Potential manpower.
Okay.
Nigeria has 65 million young people between the ages of 20 and 35. 65 million. When you have that kind of people in your country, it means it's a potential for wealth generation. Those people are the active group. So imagine if you educate the 65 million people, or they are doing something productive. It means that they can support the population. They can support the older people and support the younger ones. You know, that median group of people is what some countries fight hard to get. So we call it the dividends of population. So Nigeria has reaped that dividends. That's number one. Number two advantage of that kind of population is that if you set up a business in Nigeria that depends on network effects, that depends on population, okay, then you are likely going to make more money because Nigeria has a natural market. You set up a baby food factory in Nigeria, don't worry, it will definitely grow. As long as people are having children, then the business will boom. So if you set up a school in this country, you're likely going to get people because people are always coming up. So it has potential to generate more wealth. But there are also some worrying parts of it. The worrying part is that, like I told you, supporting that population. Nigeria, incidentally, has need of 10 million homes. Okay, 10 million housing units to support its population and give them a decent life. But currently, we can only produce 100,000 housing units in a year. We currently have 10 million need, but we only produce 100,000 houses in a year. It definitely means that there's a gap. The implication of that is that rent will go up continuously. And now, then when people spend all their money paying for rent, what would they spend to live decent life? When population expands and the infrastructure to support it doesn't expand, prices go up. So rent is expensive. When I was young in Benin City, the number of people coming to Benin City now, and the city is expanding
it's
very fast. And so what's happening to property prices too is also going up. Okay, those are the issues. But if we had a planned system such that if you give birth to 4 children, we can plan to build a house for the next 10 years. You get the point. So by the time they give birth to their own 4 children, they also plan to build 10 houses like that. So you see, its population will be controlled. That's number one. Number two, healthcare. Okay, when I was small, there was a hospital, one big hospital called Central Hospital in Benin. That was about 35 years ago. 35 years later, we still have one. Population of Edo State was 1.2 million 26 years ago. But today, population of Edo State is between 5 to 8 million. Edo State is fast increasing in population. What should be happening too is Since we had one central hospital that time, by now we should have 13 central hospitals because population has jumped.
Has increased.
Okay? Yeah. We had primary schools when I was growing up. All the primary schools that I attended, when last did they build one new primary school? Yeah. So are you getting the point I'm trying to talk about? So if we were seeing more primary schools spring up, I mean government big type of primary schools, then we see that there's progress. What's happening is that population is expanding, infrastructure is stagnant where it is. It's going to be a problem as time goes on. So that's where we get it wrong. Power generation in Nigeria was 4,000 megawatts 30 years ago. Now it is just between 4,000 and 5,000 megawatts. For our population, we need at least 40,000 megawatts of power to make the population have access to quality power. In 40 years, Nigeria has not been able to get to 10,000 megawatts. It means we are not making plans for the population. The more people come to this world, the more they want to use power. True. And then the more you have to increase the capacity to produce that power.
To be able to meet their needs.
To meet their needs, because resources are scarce. So if the population is expanding, the roads are not increasing, the power stations are not developing, the hospitals are not increasing, then it will put pressure on prices, it also put pressure on quality. Okay? So these are the issues. That's why I say it is not a blessing for Nigeria, for population to be expanding. It will only be a blessing if we make concrete investments to ensure that this population enjoys quality lifestyle. That's the point.
Okay. Now, we actually talked earlier about the aim of this day, which we have made mention of family planning. Yes, and we're still emphasizing on family planning. Now, I don't know if this is a norm in our country, Nigeria, where you find a family that's giving birth to, let's say, a child, and the child is like 1 year or 2 years old, and you find someone coming around the corner. Now, wow, madam, what do you wait for? Just won't join them now. You understand? That's mentality of, oh, what are you waiting for? Just add to the child, and maybe you've heed to their advice. And the second one is just about 1 year plus, and you find another person coming to say, just no, now quickly rush it and all of that. So I believe when family planning takes place, and or does it feel that those persons, they don't have an idea of family planning, or they just want to, you know, advise you on how to quickly give birth to your children just in case maybe something happens? The question I'm asking right now is, don't they know about spacing? You know, when you come out to tell someone, oh, you have a child, what are you waiting for? Give birth to the second one. Oh, you have the second one, what are you waiting for? Give birth to the third one. So you telling the person that, oh, I know about spacing method, I know about family planning, and the person says, forget about family planning. So what are we trying to portray before the society, or portray before those persons growing up, maybe not knowing the value of spacing?
Yeah, I think when somebody tells you to have more children, you must first of all believe they mean you well. It's not, some advice is good, but it is not intelligent. Some advice is very good. Having children, like I say, is a good thing. If somebody tells you have children, do something, it doesn't mean you well. So don't take it personal. But one thing is, you must process it yourself. And
know your capacity.
The person who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. Okay, so it is you that is going to raise those children. If the person is very persuasive with it, then you could ask, for instance, are you going to raise the children for me?
You can actually educate the person.
You can actually educate the person. That is why we say programs like this are important. They help to tell people that you have to be responsible. You know, the reason why we had many children before, we had a social support system from our family background. People are not seeing that there's a demographic change in the way Nigerians are. The way my parents lived.
Back then.
when I was a younger person, my grandmother used to bring bags of gari from my village to come and give my father. In those days, even a 45-year-old man will still be son to his father in the village, who still brings food to support. And then you can raise children, you can send one to live with your cousin, the other one to live with your uncle. You know, I mean, there was this communal life. And so you can spread the burden of children. But things are changing. Now we are not living individualistic life, where you have you and your wife and your children, and there's nobody wants to bear anybody's burden.
Not at all.
The cost of living is high. So once you understand that things are changing too, you also adapt your...
Go with the trend.
Go with the trend. You know, why do we do family planning? Why did they call it family? It's not a bad word. It means plan your family. I mean, to give them a decent life.
True.
You know, you have a child. When you have space, it gives you time to recoup, to recuperate, and have a second child, so you can give attention to the second child.
Yeah.
We also have what we call sibling rivalry. If you give it to children at the same time, they can grow up hating each other.
True.
If you are struggling to take care of both of them.
when you have the attention being given to a
To
particular one.
Some children compete with their brothers for attention. But if you give them space, one is able to mature and understand that.
And understand that this one is a
This one is
younger
that one become another parent. You know, join the parents and parent.
True.
And say yes. But when you give it to them all at the same time, they may grow up and become hostile to each other because they compete for affection and love. Okay, so family planning one does 4 things for the woman. One, her health. The job of a woman is not a factory for raising children. Women have a lot of things to do to contribute to society. A woman can become president, can become governor, can become a senator, can become a medical doctor, can become an active player in the economy. Okay, so but when you spend all the time belaboring a woman, having a lot of children, the woman can, having children is strenuous. It takes time. So planning it allows the woman to have children and return back to her life and her duties as a person. That's number 1. Number 2, it also helps the health of the children because you can give each of them individual care. Number 3, it also helps in your finances because if you earn regular flow of income, government is not going to increase your salary by 2 if you have the second child. Wages do not jump by number of children. So if you earn 100,000 a month, you had a child. By the time you have 2 children, it therefore means that you are going to split, the children are going to split from that 100,000. Common sense says that if your income is not increasing, you should not be increasing children. You should balance everything in a way that there's what called equilibrium. Okay, that's the idea. So family planning is a process to want to protect the woman's health. 2, to give her rights to other things apart from just having children. 3, to ensure that the children get quality life themselves. And 4, even the father, it affects his income, his planning patterns. If you have less children, you can plan for their future. You could buy shares for them, you could buy properties for them, hoping that when they grow older, they will be able to take care of themselves. But if you have 10 children, then you need to buy 10 houses or buy 10 shares in 10 companies. And you may not have all those kind of resources. So it's actually common sense. It's actually common sense to be responsible with the way you have children. It's not a matter of wish or no wish. My friend said this, my friend did not say that. It's common sense to be disciplined with the number of children you have. In your production of children. You know, the core duties of man is not just to have children. It's part of the duties of man, but it's to be a player in the society.
Okay, now looking at the developed world, where we get governments, you know, taking care of the upbringing of the children.
Yes.
Now, I know in, I think the UK, if you have more than 4 children, let's say the 5th one is your sole responsibility. I don't know if that is...
There are policies around the world like that, yes.
Now, why don't we have those policies in Nigeria?
We don't have it because it's a poor country. We don't have the resources to support it. You know, that's the question. We'll get back to the question again. Resources. We don't have the resources. A lot of people, there's a common misconception, a very stupid lie, that Nigeria is a rich country. It's often broadcasted, even educated people say it. Nigeria has a lot of money. There's a lot of ignorance peddled around. Nigeria is one of the poorest countries in the world on any metric you use to measure it. Very, very poor. Poor. Once you accept that, there's only one way out. We go and work.
You fend for yourself.
You fend for yourself, you generate income. How can you call a country that is poor? The budget, the Nigerian budget is just $45 billion. That's the budget of some companies in America. Coca-Cola's budget is bigger than Nigeria's budget. I don't know what people say when they say Nigeria is a rich country. The total money generated in this country is a paltry sum compared to what some companies generate abroad. So it's a poor country. Once we know that, what we should be doing is how do we generate more money for this country? So that we can be like other countries like Austria, UK, and others who can give money to their citizens. If you were born in Germany, for instance, the government will be paying money into your account until you get to a certain age.
I tell you.
Okay, that's because Germany is one of the richest countries on earth. The GDP of Germany is about 7 trillion. Nigeria is 480, 500 billion. It's not enough. It's too small. So what we should do, we should retain our population and increase our capacity to generate wealth. We have the potential. All we need to do is to educate our people so that they can generate sufficient income The per capita income of Nigeria is just $2,000. It's too small for a year. $2,000. That's what some European countries use to do holidays. So what we should do is this: if we shore up our wealth as a country, we invest in critical sectors that will generate billion-dollar wealth. Then our children in the future, when you give birth to them, you begin to put money in their accounts. How do you know that? In our private lives, forget government. How many of us have an account for our children that will put money inside? You do that mathematics within your small income bracket, and you see that you may not have the resources to continue that till they are 18.
That's true.
So why do we expect the government? The government is a bigger Nigerian to have the money to do that. So what we want to see in the big Nigeria, we should start it with our personal life first. How many of us plan? In developed countries, when they want to have children, they plan 5 years. I've seen couples abroad who say we'll marry now, but we'll start having children 2026. Okay. That's how Europeans plan. And then the wife will say, okay, they will say we cannot afford it. People don't understand when the white man says we cannot afford it. They are serious. We can afford to be together. We cannot afford a child.
Having a child.
Because having a child is expensive. It's expensive. You are going to have nannies. You are going to pay for their school fees. True. You are going to, there are a lot of costs that are going to raising a child. So the same thing applies to us. If we cannot afford children, we should not have them.
Do we feel is the policy being placed in those developed countries? That's the reason why you find a couple telling you, okay, we can't, fend for these children right now. Let's wait for a particular year. We understand that over there, the money you pay a nanny to take care of your child is enormous. Enormous. Yes.
Yes.
So is it the policy that has been placed on ground just because they want good life, good well-being for their children?
There are policies. There's what's called minimum wage. It is enforced strictly. So she's a nanny, and then there's what called minimum wage.
There's a base. There's a
base anybody should earn. And the quality of life in that society also, the quality of life in Port Harcourt is not the same with that in Benin City. It's the same thing everywhere in the world. So if you hire a nanny there, you don't have children nannies like you want to go to one village, go and bring somebody here. That's child abuse.
To take care of the child.
You bring a person here, you are not paying anything. The person is taking care of your children. The person is not going to school.
You tell the person you go to school.
You go to school, let the person to grow up and become useless. That's how abroad everybody is working, everybody is thinking. Your nanny is not your slave. Your nanny is a professional worker, she does her job.
And goes home.
There are many Nigerians, men like me, who go abroad and do nanny. And they are well paid, they have cars, they live their life, they repatriate funds to their families. So if you, in that kind of society, when you have children, you call a person to be your nanny. Be ready to pay. And so it's expensive to raise children. It's responsible and expensive to raise children. So in that kind of society, we need policies like that too. Government needs to tell people that you should complain less when you have more children. You know why? You have already created more problem for people. I remember when I entered the bus one time, I was a woman came and the woman brought 6 children. I was asking us in the bus, and was saying, please, I have for 6 children. I don't have money to take care of them. She was saying like that. Everybody was feeling emotional. I felt bad. I said, this woman, I looked at all the children, and I said, wow. Then one woman from the back, in the whole feeling of emotions, just said, they're saying you. Okay. It sounded wicked, and the woman was angry. They're saying you don't have a job, you don't have anything, you have 6 children.
6 children. What
so that you become a problem to other people. And then people say, madam, you don't reach. And I say, no. Even me, I'm a banker. I have only 1 child, and it's expensive for me. Okay. The table has turned.
I tell you, then the pity has died down.
Before you knew it, she started having political party members who supported her ministry and said, yeah, it actually makes sense. Yes. Why do you bring people into this world? And you're not able to cater for them.
And they really did not beg you that they want to come.
Of course.
Yeah, they were just on their own.
Why do you just create more problems for ourselves, for the whole universe? Sew your coat according to your cloth. That's what they told us. So it's the same thing we are talking about now. Don't bring children into this world
that you cannot cater for.
Sometimes accidents happen. I understand the challenge. Some people have jobs, they were doing well when they had those children. Somehow it happens. When an accident happens, we understand that's an accident.
But and funny enough, when an accident happens like that, you don't find the person laying back you find them, you know, wanting to find one way or the other
to get out of that position.
To get out of the position, because they actually knew where they were coming from.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go back to, you know, the old days.
To that old days.
Yes.
So everybody should have that responsibility. And I'm happy. A lot of people are thinking about, if you check modern couples now, they are very responsible with their children. Yeah. So I mean, we're also learning too. Life is getting hard, you know. Life is getting hard, so we have to be responsible.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, quickly now, before we go, looking at the aims, we've talked about family planning.
Yes.
Let's go over to gender equality as far as population issue is concerned.
Yes.
Gender equality.
Yeah, it has issues for gender equality. What's gender equality in the first place? The fact that women and men should be treated equally in society, should have access to the same opportunities and other things. Okay, central to that equality is access to the same education, the same information. First of all, why are men not equal with women? It's not nature that caused it. Go and check population of Nigeria, of any country in the world. The population of men and women is nearly the same, almost 50%. So it's not population that was the problem. The problem in that inequality is socio-economic attainment, the resources available to the two. In societies that are chauvinistic or sexist, that tend to prefer male children to female children, there will be a bias in raising the male children at the expense of the female children. And when you educate men, hoping that women will go and marry one man somewhere, then there will be unequal access to quality of life. Okay? But education solves that problem. When you educate the men and the women and allow them to enter the workforce, then the woman can get into a decent job. You are a woman, for instance, and you earn your income. You may be married.
I am married.
You're married, and I don't think you're a burden to your husband.
No.
You're not. You're actually a contributor.
Because
you earn your income. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, what the status, the difference between you and him will not be like this. You'll be seeing yourself as partners in progress.
Certainly.
Yes. So equality of the sexes has an economic dimension. And what's the economic dimension? One, access to healthcare, access to education, access to opportunities. Okay, we should not have jobs that are defined clearly for men and jobs that are defined clearly for women. It also goes to the politics. If you check all the presidential candidates and all the governors and all of them we are seeing, and most of them are men.
True.
It now appears as if women are meant to sing and dance for men during elections. That's not how it's supposed to be. Women make up 50% of the population. They should also make up 50% of the governance structure. So why are women not going for such positions? Because the access is not there. It seems as if they are at the mercy of men. So when men don't hold the office finish, they will not look for one woman put there. No, it's not supposed to be like that. In civilized societies, women actually contribute more to development more than men for two reasons. One, women raise children. Because they raise children everywhere in the world spend more time with their mothers than with their father. And that's why they say educate a woman, and then you have educated a generation. Okay? Once we understand the power and potential of women, we will not be treating them as second class citizens. We put them in the forefront. We will put them in the forefront because our children will be responsible to them, will come from them, and they will raise these children. So it actually pays any society to grant women and men equal status so that they can become partners in progress. Putting a woman at the back side of the economy, it doesn't help anybody in the long run.
Now let's know that women are known for managing. They know how to manage very well.
They are great managers. They are great managers because of the way they are
potentials they have.
They have potentials. Check most offices that are controlled by women. If I can mention some women who have gone to politics, you understand it. Remember the late Dr. Dora Akunyili? You know what she did with NAFDAC? Most people just knew NAFDAC on paper. But NAFDAC became on the forefront of newspapers because a woman who is disciplined, a woman who has courage, tenacity, education, who knows what it requires. And she gave a personal story that somebody she knew died from fake drugs. And so women are very emotional, and so they pursue things like that. Okay? And we have seen many positions like that women have held. Look at the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Konju-Iweala. Currently, a Nigerian woman is the head of the World Trade Organization. That organization is a multilateral organization, a big organization of the whole world. A Nigerian woman sits there. No Nigerian man has gotten there.
Has gone there,
It tells you that educate one woman, and then you educate a generation. So it is in our best interest to educate our girl child and give them access to the quality life that they want.
All right, that is how we'll be handing you over today as far as World Population Day is concerned. And we want to let you know that, yes, gender equality, certainly you being a man, you being a woman, we are equal in the sight of God. And of course, equal also in society. So don't, because this person is a woman, you're not supposed to give this particular office position to that person. No, you don't even know the potentials that woman has. I'm not just because I'm a woman, so I'm soliciting for them. No, because I know we are all equal. You being a man or you being a woman. Now, talking about family planning, hey, it's very, very important. As a family, come together as a man, as a woman, and tell yourself how many children you actually want to give birth to as far as your present circumstance is concerned. Don't look for someone out there, look for one uncle in Canada or in UK or wherever to come raise your children for you. Be your sole responsibility be placed on you. Raise your children the way you ought to raise them and let them be happy at the end of the day. All right, we'll be seeing you again next week for another exciting time on Flipside. Do have yourself a blessed day. Thank you so much, Destiny Wovu, for being here today. Yeah, bye for now.
Bye.